Hi, welcome to NFW. My name is Jen A. Durand. I am a romance writer. I write contemporary, paranormal, and fantasy romance. I am going to talk today about romance, just the general topic of romance. I think it's something that's fascinating and takes so many forms, and I kind of just want to delve in deep with it. Um, Everyone has their own ideas to what's romantic, what's special, how you express your love for another person, and how you think that love will interact with each other. Um, One of the things that I always think is very interesting is just the way that my readers connect with my stories and the way that they interact with the characters. Whenever I'm developing a story, I try to remember that it's the little moments I think that count the most. At least for me, whenever I'm writing a story and it's recounting a special moment, it's always a very small moment. It's never like a big, intense, like rush of action, just because I don't really find that believable, especially in my contemporary work. Because for me, it's not so much about the tension of like the push and pull, because I just don't think that's very realistic. Um, so for me, it's always been about what are the conversations you're having during those quiet moments? How are you spending time together? How are you imparting like the wisdom you've gathered through the day? Um, are you cooking together? How are you spending your time? Do you want to spend time with that person? What are your conversations like? Give me insight into who you are as a person and how you fell in love with this other person. Um, and so, whenever I'm drafting a scene, especially one in one of my contemporary works or even in the fantasy, I always keep in mind that I want this to be, no matter the time period, no matter the setting, to be realistic. I like the moments where the couple are just having a real moment to speak and be honest with each other and not just do 20 or 30 pages in which she's keeping all of her thoughts and emotions in her mind and the hero's supposed to magically read her mind and figure it out, or spend the next 20 and 30 pages frustrating her because he's not figuring it out and she's refusing to tell him. I'm a big proponent of I'm not a mind reader. You need to tell me whatever it is you're thinking, and then I need to tell you whatever I'm thinking, and then we need to figure it out. No one has ever accused me of not being able to talk a lot. And so, whenever I'm writing a scene, and maybe this is to my detriment, you guys can tell me whether or not you like it when the writer drags out a scene or a particular emotion over a longer period of pages rather than just confront it head on. I would be curious to know, and maybe I would even be able to implement something similar in my own stories just for a bit of variety. Um, as a millennial, I spend a lot of time thinking about dating and marriage and whether or not it's something that I agree with, whether or not it's something I want to for myself. And one of the things that I've always been very clear on is that I'm not really a big fan of dating. I don't like dating. I don't really like the getting to know you stages. I love to just skip right to the romance stage. I like the idea of a date being going grocery shopping together and cooking together while you guys talk about your day and drink wine. For me, dating is like going to the coffee shop or to an expensive restaurant and spending the rest of the time just trying to find like some type of conversation to bond with. Whereas when you're in a relationship and you're doing things for the other person, that's the true romance. The true romance is waking up and making him a cup of coffee, him waking up and giving you a kiss on the cheek, or um, handing you your phone so that you can check the news and the weather before you get up for the day. It's going to brunch and sitting across from each other, drinking mimosas and talking about how the two of you haven't had a chance to really connect with each other during the course of the work week. Um, I'm a big proponent of spending time with people. I think that's how you best get to know someone, but also just, gets when you're in love and when you are even in like, spending time with someone does something to you chemically where everything else that's stressful in your life just seems a little bit distant in a way. It fades into the background because you're so invested in just enjoying that relationship and enjoying the people that you're with. And so, whenever I'm writing a story, I always include scenes where you get to know the characters as they are together. A second chance. A second chance I wrote in 2000. I started writing in 2019. It finished in 2000. At the end of 2019, and then it was a lot of editing and redrafting, and then it was published in January of 2020. And A Second Chance is basically about two high school sweethearts who broke up because they were going in different directions. One wanted to stay in the town that she grew up in. She didn't really see anything wrong with the life that they shared, while the other had bigger and better plans. And so you see them reconnecting years later. And she's now a widow. He is unmarried and still pining for the youthful love that they have. And interwoven through the story, you get to see who they were and who they are in that current moment of time. So I include flashbacks where you see them as teenagers hanging out with each other, spending time with each other, watching movies, getting facials, joking around. And you see the scene, well, you get to read the scene where they have that final argument where you remember when you were in high school and everything just felt so intense and everything felt so permanent, and you let your anger get the best of you and you make a permanent decision based off of temporary emotions, which is great for a teenager, but for an adult not so much. And so in the story you read as they reconnect, and you get to see the differences between who they were as teenagers and who they are as adults. You get to see them really just reconnect and be together. And it's not for the happily ever after. It's not because you think that, oh, they've grown up and they're perfect now. It's because who they are in this moment and who they were is just so intrinsically bonded that they cannot stay away from each other, which I think is sometimes how it is when you fall in love. Like, everyone remembers their first love. Everyone remembers those feelings that they got when they were around that person and when they got to spend time with that person. And everyone remembers the breakup and the heartbreak, because you're absolutely sure that you'll never find love again because this person is no longer in your life. And then to imagine as an adult, as someone who's been through things, as someone who's learned that not everything is make or break, not every decision has to result in the end, you get to see them as adults who are more forgiving than they were when they were teenagers, when, things weren't nearly as serious. And it's beautiful to see how they've changed and how they still fit together in a way. Um, I like to tell my friends that there's a lid to every pot. I say it all of the time. And they laugh when I say it, but it's very much true. There is someone out there who you look at and you're like, you're a human, you are a horrible human being, you're rude, you're mean, you're disgusting, you're whatever, whatever, whatever. And yet I can promise you, at the end of the day, at the end of their life, as much as you dislike that person, there is someone out there who loves them, who values them, who appreciates them, who sees the best in them. Why? Because there's a lid to every pot. There just is. And so whenever I'm writing a story, I don't go for perfection. I don't go for the guys who are just so perfect that, it makes sense that they end up with the girl. I go for the guy who's flawed because everyone's flawed. And I pair him with the girl who's flawed but also just loves who I pair him with the girl who's flawed but also sees his flaws and accepts them for what they are and sees their ability to love each other in spite of those flaws as a benefit. Because to me, there's nothing in life that's perfect. There's nothing in life where you're going to wake up every day and be perfectly content in your existence. I personally just don't think that's reality. Um, And for some reason, whenever I'm writing, I always have to infuse a bit of reality into the scenario. Like I'm the type of girl, just to make this really clear, because I love reading young adult books, and I've written one, and I'm working on another series. I'm working on a series of young adult books, but I also watch a lot of like young adult movies. I read a lot of their books. I love cartoon movies. I love Disney movies. Like I am a kid 65% of the time and a full grown adult 45% of the time. But even as a kid, I remember watching like the high school movies where the kids get to go and do this and get to go and do that. And it's like a running joke among my siblings where I'll sit there and I'll be like, where are these people's parents? Like, where are these people's parents? Because, like, for real, my mother had a LoJack. It was magical. I don't know where she got it, but she could be like a state or two away and still know what was going on in her house. And she had a way of knowing the exact moment when she needed to call and would ask the most pointed questions to the point where we would look around wondering if she has cameras hidden somewhere. Um, and so when I'm writing, I inject that kind of realism because I like to write what I know. I know that, you know, there's no one out there who's perfect and who's going to come to you perfectly, who's going to know how to love you perfectly, who's going to know how to fulfill your every need perfectly. That doesn't exist. Perfection does not exist. What does exist is someone who wants to learn how to love you, someone who wants to be there for you, someone who you want to learn how to love them. And when I'm writing a story, it's about the mutual exchange of hearts. It's about the mutual exchange of trust because these women are trusting these men to value them and to cherish them and to build a life with them. And these men are doing the exact same thing. Um, Take for instance Jaguar Knights. Jaguar Knights is book 2 in my series The Secrets, Lies, and Betrayal series. So it's Jaguar Knights Lies. It's about a married couple who've been married for years, and in the entire in the entirety of their marriage, it wasn't built on trust. That was destroyed long before the beginning of the story. It's a paranormal romance in which they are soulmates, and one did not want the life that he has. He did not want the responsibilities that he has. He didn't want the wife that he had. He wanted a different life, and that manifested itself in anger and rejection and a bit of petulance. And so you have this man that most readers, when they start reading the story, cannot stand because they're looking at him and they're like, you have this life and you're rejecting every bit of it because it's not exactly as you want it. And then you have this woman who is looking at you like, I've spent years trying to get you to see the value in what you have, and now I'm done. And it's a story of recovery from lies. It's a story of the recovery from deception and how you come out the other side stronger and more in love. Um, because I think that's a beautiful thing. Because as far as I know, even in the relationships, I'm not unmarried, so, but in the relationships that I've had, forgiveness is a real thing. And, it takes many forms for many people, but for me, I've always said that if I forgive you, that means it's not necessarily that I have to forget, but I can't use it against you later. It's not something that can come up in conversation later. I can't throw it in your face in moments and fits of anger, because then I'm not forgiving you. I'm holding on to it. I'm holding on to the emotions involved in it, and I'm bringing it back to you. And so whenever I write, I try to infuse that in my stories, because there's never a relationship where forgiveness doesn't play a part. Take, for instance, I have another story. It's called Crumpled Love Notes. Crumpled Love Notes is a sports romance, it's contemporary. It's about, out of all the stories, I actually think that's the one that most represents forgiveness, about the recovery of lies and having to really just be okay with the person that you're with and decide whether or not you're capable of letting go of the anger associated with that deception, whether or not you're capable of trusting him again, whether or not you are capable of continuing the relationship with the same openness and honesty that you started the relationship with, which is a difficult thing to do. And quite honestly, I still haven't perfected that particular um, mentality, because I can be petty. I really can. But I'm aware of it. And so I try to restrain that in and to be truthful if I cannot forgive something or I cannot forget something. Um, because I don't think it's fair for the other person involved, and I don't think it's fair for myself, because who wants to live with that kind of stress of being in a relationship with someone that when you're fighting, you hate them? Even if the other 90% of the time you're in love, when you're fighting, you're remembering everything he ever did that was bad to you. He's remembering everything you did that was bad to him. And all of that anger from all of those previous incidents snowballs into the most current incident, and you hate each other for that moment of time. And so I just I just view forgiveness as a strength that I'm working on building within myself, and I love exploring in my stories. It's made dating interesting, to say the least, because as much as I love to forgive people, I also love to let people go. I am a big proponent of, there's no one who's meant to be in your life forever if they don't want to be there. You can't force someone to stay in your life. It's just, it doesn't work. And it usually creates a whole lot of animosity. So when, and maybe it's just I'm a very pragmatic romanticist, because I say this to other people and they're like, life does not work that way. And I understand that. I understand you can get upset. I can understand, wanting to hold on to someone and to be with that person forever. But at the same time, I think that everyone just needs to take a moment to value themselves and to value the person that they're with. Even at my angriest, there's no one who I've been with that I've hated to the point where I wished misery upon them forever and a day. Like, when you leave my life, I don't hate you. I don't wish bad things for you. I don't want you to walk away and get run over by a bus. I just want you to leave and continue to exist in your own and hopefully be happy. And I will mourn the end of this relationship and then recover. And maybe it's because I believe in God and I believe that He has a plan for me. Maybe it's because I'm foolishly young. Maybe it's because I don't know. But I've always approached dating that way. And so far, it hasn't led me astray. I haven't met like anything earth shattering yet. Maybe I'll change my tune once I do. But I do know that there is a special type of beauty in romance. There's a special type of beauty in those small moments when you get to spend with the person that you love. And it's not about anything serious. It's not about a conversation, or it's not it's not about anything serious. It's not about the words that you're exchanging. It's about their presence, sharing in their presence. If you agree, please let me know. Please leave a comment below, send me a message. My email address is andreadurand@gmail.com, ANDREADURAND at gmail.com. Leave a comment below. I am so curious to hear from you guys, and I love hearing from you guys. So you just let me know. And thank you for taking the time to listen, and have a great day. Bye.